If you're new here, my name's Aaron, this is Chiara, and this is what we've learned in the last 4 weeks travelling all the way from south to north through Vietnam.
The most important thing is the transport. In Vietnam, there are these very luxury and awesome looking buses that you can book through agencies, through your accommodations, or online on Bookaway or 12 Go Asia. On paper, these buses look awesome. However, there wasn't one single time in which we didn't have a problem with them. They were either late, telling us that it would take 4-5 hours to get to destination and was taking double time. One bus didn't show up, one was 1 hour early,
we had to stop and get picked up in a car, so we had to swap from van to car.
Yep. The only night bus we took, the driver honked all night. I mean, all night, every 2 seconds. So it was a sleepless bus rather than a sleeping bus. Anyway, there is no way to avoid these problems, but just so you're aware of it, it's not going to be a smooth ride. So we prefer taking these buses during the day, so we could get to our accommodation in the afternoon and have a sleep, rather than taking these buses at night and have a sleepless night.
Yeah, if you can, try not to get a bus. I much preferred getting a van instead. They're generally a lot smaller. There might be room for 7 people rather than 30 people, and it seems to get to the destination smoother without any problems. We both work online, so for us, high-speed internet, or at least reliable internet, is a must, and I have to say, throughout most of Vietnam, high-speed and reliable internet is everywhere. Nearly every hotel we went through, it was like I said before, it was very reliable, so it didn't drop out, and also very fast, or not very fast, but it was at least usable for us to work with. Also, in most coffee shops and eateries, they will have Wi-Fi set up for their patrons, so if you're that way inclined, you can bring your computer out to a coffee shop, have your coffee, and do some work while you're there.
We actually did a SIM card as soon as we got to Vietnam to have internet on our phone to use Grab and Google Maps. The best company is Getz, is very cheap as well, and you will have connection everywhere.
The food in Vietnam is generally amazing. One of the best things you can get is called banh mi, which is like Subway sandwich. There's heaps of different varieties and there's different ways they've made it. I found in the north they sort of compress it with a sandwich press, but in the south it's just a normal bread sandwich. Usually very cheap. It ranges from, the cheapest we found was 15,000 dong, and it ranges up to maybe 35 to 40,000. There's plenty of food options. There's Western food, there's Asian food, there's all sorts of foods. There's all sorts of coffee shops. The most famous food you can find in Vietnam is called pho, which is a kind of soup, which we didn't actually have because neither of us like soup.
But if you like soup, it's a must try in Vietnam. Another important thing to know if you come to Vietnam is about a couple of weeks into our trip, I started having hair problems. So my hair weren't getting clean. They were always sticky and waxy and yucky. And I asked on Facebook for a recommendation on a Facebook group, and everyone told me that is because Vietnam has a very hard water. And the only way to solve this is either using a water filter, so it might be worth taking a water filter with you if you stay in Vietnam longer, or use a hard water shampoo, which I haven't been able to find you some for the life of me. So again, if you travel to Vietnam, I recommend taking a hard water shampoo with you, or apple cider vinegar. And that is the only solution that I could try for myself. And it worked. I started rinsing my hair with normal mineral water from the bottle and apple cider vinegar, and apart from the fact that it was smelling like fish and chips, it worked very well.
One of my favorite things about Vietnam as a whole is the coffee scene, because I really love coffee. And coffee in Vietnam is everywhere. Pretty much you walk outside of your hotel, you're at Airbnb, you will find a coffee. It is guaranteed. It's usually very cheap and very good. And they have different styles that you only find in Vietnam, like the famous egg coffee. Apart from the egg coffee, you can also get salt coffee, which tastes way better than what it sounds like. You can get coconut coffee, which is Chiara's favorite. We found a tiramisu style coffee. We found something called the fat cream coffee, which was like an espresso shot with a big fat cream layer on top, which is delicious.
That was good.
But it is super strong. It can be very sweet, so just brace yourself for that. But if you have too many at once, your heart will go into palpitations, so you are warned.
Another thing that you must know when you come to Vietnam is English. English is not widely spoken. I think as far as Southeast Asian countries go, is the one with the worst English. What we have found is it's very useful to download the Google Translate app, download Vietnamese as an offline language, and everyone will always be very keen to use Google Translate. Actually, a lot of people, they will actually pull out Google Translate for you, so you will be able to communicate.
You should definitely check your visa requirements before trying to visit Vietnam. We needed a visa and we needed to apply a few days before we expected to arrive in Vietnam. The official recommendation is to apply for your visa 3 working days before you are meant to arrive in Vietnam. We found that you should probably apply at least a week, 7 working days before your arrival date. It just allows you a few days so you're not waiting on your visa before you can get into the country. You can apply for a maximum of 90 days or 3 months, I believe, but you can set your own limit. So if you're only going to be there for 30 days, you can apply for a 30-day visa. If you're going to be there for 45 days, but up to a maximum of 90 days. Fairly straightforward process. You can apply online, you pay your fee online, and then you will get notification online. Try and print it out on a piece of paper when you get there, because just in case, I think they prefer having the paper version rather than a screen version.
Okay, now one thing that you need to know about Vietnam is Hoi An clothing. Hoi An is the cheapest place in the world to get custom-made clothing. They have some awesome tailors. We have been at Bong Tailor and we can't recommend them enough. Our tailor was Van. I can't say her name properly, I'm sorry Van if you're watching. And she was awesome, we had a great experience, I did all the fittings and the modification that we required. I got a jumpsuit and I paid, I think, 112 Australian dollars. And Aaron had a shirt and you say that?
I got a shirt and some shorts done.
I have a problem with these 2 words. And you paid? No. I think around $90. Anyway, here you can get a whole wardrobe done. Here you will find 3 kind of shops. The shops at the market will be the cheaper ones, and probably the quality won't be the best either, but you might find a good tailor shop inside the market as well. Make sure to read the reviews online. You can find a middle range shop, which is where we went, or you can find the very fancy and expensive tailor shops, and they are great if you need some very good clothing done, like for a wedding or something like that. But we were very happy with Bong Tailor. So if you want some clothing and you're going to wear every day for a long time, is the place to go.
Next up is the weather in Vietnam. It will change a fair bit from north to south and also from coast to inland. When we got there, we went to a place called Da Lat, which is up in the mountains, which was surprisingly a lot cooler than Saigon, where we came from. And then from there we went to Nha Trang, which is on the coast, and the temperature leveled out a lot. It was a lot warmer and also a lot more stable with less swings in temperature. And as we traveled more north, the cooler it seemed to get as well.
If you go up north in winter, bear in mind, which is like the European winter, I think December, January, February, bear in mind it will be cold, especially north of Hanoi in Sapa if you are going to do the Ha Trang Loop.
The accommodation in Vietnam is super cheap. It is the cheapest we found in all Southeast Asia. You can find a complete range between really, really cheap hostels for like $5 a night to super high-end hotels for a lot more. We generally stick to the mid-range of about 30 to 40 bucks a night. You can find entire apartments for that with pools and beautiful views. The apartment we had in Nha Trang, we were 30 floors up, ocean views, 35 bucks a night for a full apartment.
And this is Australian dollars, so it's very cheap. An important thing to know in Vietnam is that you must haggle. They are very good at it, so probably you will end up overpaying anyway, but you really need to haggle. I bought a set of shorts and shorts. Show a long sleeve shirt. Did I say that correctly?
So, yeah.
Anyway, that cost me 400,000 dong. The prices started at 7,000 dong, and I took it down to 4,000 dong without haggling that much. I could have paid probably much less.
When you finally reach your town or destination, one of the best ways to try and explore it or try and get around is to get a taxi. Generally, don't get the taxis that approach you and that approach you on the street, because they will probably overcharge. The best way is to pick up your phone and order a Grab. You can either get, if you're single and by yourself, you can get a Grab bike, which is cheaper and more dangerous but more fun, or you can get a car for two people. Also, if you don't feel like going out at night and you want to have some food brought to you, there's Grab food as well. So you just order what you want and rock up to your door.
It's basically the Southeast Asian version of Uber. Speaking of traffic, Vietnam is the worst country we have ever been in so far for traffic. Especially Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, the traffic is absolutely crazy and it's dangerous because Vietnamese don't look where they go. They will just turn without looking. They will drive this far away from you without looking, even if you're walking. So please be very aware of the traffic, don't get killed. And if I were you, I would also avoid getting a bike, because we had a lot of backpackers who crashed a bike in Vietnam and they hurt themselves very badly and maybe they didn't even have insurance. So please, if you drive a bike, at least make sure you have insurance, you wear a helmet and make sure that you are an expert rider, otherwise get a Grab.
There are scams most everywhere in the world, so Vietnam's no exception. There are common ones like the shoe shine scam. Someone will approach you offering to shine your shoes. If you say yes without a fixed price, they may try and overcharge you when they're finished, and you will have no choice but to pay them or feel obligated to pay them. You may be overcharged for certain food items. There's taxi scams, so if they don't have a meter and you don't set a price to start with, you may be overcharged there. Romance scam, where a pretty girl will take you to a restaurant, order for you, you have all this food coming, she'll bugger off without paying and you have to pay it all.
Generally, we found that if people stop you to talk out of nowhere for no reason at all, then there is usually a scam involved.
Which happens more in Thailand than Vietnam, but...
Yeah, it happened us twice in Bangkok. Just the second time we knew better because it was the same scam. Of course, I'm sure there are a lot of guy people around that really want to have a chat, but just be aware.
These are only a few cases. Vietnam is generally very safe for tourists to go there, and as long as you're a little bit aware of the world, you should be fine.
Before going to Vietnam, we had a couple of friends who have been there and told us that Vietnamese are cold, but we didn't find this to be the case at all. In fact, we've met some really awesome people. Maybe we found colder people in big cities like Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi, but not even, like, we've met some very great people there as well.
Yeah, I love Vietnam.
Yeah.
I think Vietnamese are amazing people. Vietnam is one of those countries in the world that you will have to carry cash with you to pay for about 90% of the things you'll buy. If you go to a restaurant or a hotel, sometimes they will have a card machine or card facilities, but most of the time you will have to carry cash. For most small items, especially at markets, you will need to pay with them with dong.
Make sure to Google what ATM has the lowest fees and go on that, and also make sure to leave home with a travel card, because your local bank will probably charge you extra money every time you withdraw money overseas. So when we have done in Australia, we need a travel card with the Commonwealth Bank. Another option, if you want an online card, is Wise or Revolut. Also, is a good idea if you keep a small amount of money on the travel card, so you can block it in case something happens. Actually, on our last day in Vietnam, the ATM machine almost ate our card.
Vietnam is an amazing country. It is definitely 100% one of my top 10 places to come in the world. You will see a lot of different things. You will meet a lot of different people, and you'll experience a lot of different things. So yeah, come to Vietnam.
You can have the big city, you have the Taylor City with all the lanterns in Hoi An, it's amazing. You have Phong Nha with an awesome cave system, one of the best in the world. You have Nha Trang, which is with these beautiful beaches and looks like the Gold Coast in Australia. There is something for everyone. And not to mention the rice fields in Sapa, which unfortunately we haven't been able to visit this time, but we will definitely go back to visit more of the north of Vietnam. Make sure to give yourself enough time when you visit Vietnam, because we spent 40 days there and we still didn't see it all. But that is it for this video. We hope this was useful. If you have been to Vietnam and you have other tips, please let us know in the comments for everyone to see. And if you like this video, leave us a like, leave us a comment, and we will see you in the next one. And subscribe.